The reason that I get caught up in the roles that I play is because I don't want to be honest about where I am personally. Hello there. You are listening to the Girl Talk podcast brought to you by our friends at Fox Toyota of East Tennessee. My name is Carol.
I'm Kelly.
I'm Trisha.
And we're glad you're here today. You ever get lost? You know, you plug the directions into GPS. Yeah, you plug your directions into the GPS and you get to where you're going, but the destination is not where you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Mm-hmm.
And it says recalculating.
Or turn right into the pond over there.
Do you ever feel like that in life? You ever feel like you get lost in the whirlwind that is life, whether it be kids or activities or work or whatever the case may be? It is easy to lose yourself. I can remember a very distinct time in my life where I was probably as close to burnout as I have ever been. And I had a friend look me in the eye and she was like, you need some, what would refresh you? And I had so lost myself that I didn't even know she goes, tell me some things you like to do. And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
She was like, well, okay. Actually, it wasn't a friend. It was a counselor.
But, a paid friend.
A paid friend. That's right. And so the process of working through that and trying to figure out what in the world and how I had gotten so off course and the things that I used to love to do, I no longer did anymore. And I mean, and so I want us to talk about that today because the tendency is to get ourselves lost in something and forget who we are. And I think that opens up a door to all sorts of problems.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're getting to the point of identity. How do you identify yourself? Mm-hmm. And if you identify yourself, if I identify myself as my role, as mom, or a wife, or even an employee, here, or if I identify myself in those ways and that is how I do it, then I really get confused. I lose sight of all the other things. I had to do a questionnaire. It wasn't that long ago, and it said, what do you like to do or what are your hobbies? I literally struggled for several minutes to figure out how to respond to that.
Yeah.
Number one, I was like, I don't really know because I haven't thought about that in a long time. And then I had some ideas, and then I thought, is that wrong to put? Is that right to put? I was second guessing even my own opinions on things because that's how confused I was. So I think when we identify, it's how we identify ourselves.
Yeah.
And if I'm identifying myself as a role, I get confused.
Yeah. I think we have a tendency to do that too as moms.
Yeah.
More than any other role I've ever been in, I'm Will's mom. And
because it's all encompassing.
It's all encompassing. And now I'm at an age, he's 13. I'm at an age where he's beginning to pull away, as he should. He's turning into a man, and he needs to learn how to pull away from his mama. But mama's like, don't pull away. Just stay right here because I'm losing my identity.
Yeah.
There's you no longer need me like you used to need me. And so who am I? How do I find myself again now that he's pulling away?
That's it.
And it's so hard. I don't know who I used to be.
Yeah.
Who was I before I was a mom?
So how do we find ourselves again? How do we find our way back to that? Anyone?
What I want to do, and this is hard to find time to do this in our super busy lives. But what I want to do is I want to go sit in the woods by myself for 3 days and have a spiritual retreat, a planning retreat where I look at myself and my life and who I am and God and my identity and all of those things.
Yeah.
And think about it again.
Okay.
But that's hard to do.
I understand that. But I think you bring up a very valid point, and a good place to start is that we actually think about it.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about like, oh, what did I used to like to do? Oh, I used to, like to play tennis, or I used to like to read books, or whatever the case may be. And then that would be it. I think what I am talking of is sitting down and making space to spend concentrated time to say, all right, who am I and what in the world is going on? Who am I apart from being a mom? You know, who am I apart from being an employee? Who am I apart from being whatever role or hat you wear in your life? Who are you aside from that? I read a book a while back that talked about if you sat down over coffee with somebody and you could only describe yourselves with the contents and the condition of your heart, how would you do with that? And I was like, okay, I'm putting this book up because I just can't even go there. You know, because I think that's what happens. Yeah. Well, I think even in that, you got to go a little bit deeper. You know, you got to say, well, in what way? And there are some things that you have to be honest about. And I think really for me, the reason that I get caught up in the roles that I play is because I don't want to be honest about where I am personally.
That's ringing a bell.
That was a lay down on the couch and let me get a legal.
No. I'm laying down on the couch. Scoot over if you're on there because I'm lying with you here. This is really deep because I've never really considered who I am apart from a combination of roles.
Yeah.
And I remember one time when I was younger, I decided to leave acting. I was an actor. I started acting when I was in college. I worked professionally for about 18, 19 years. And then at some point I felt God calling me out of that, calling me out by denying me any roles. Wait, God, are you trying to tell me something? Closing every door.
Yeah.
But I had to sort of decide, okay, I'm going to leave that. And now where do I go? And I had 2 weeks where I did not leave my house. I had a severe depression because I literally had no idea who I was apart from pursuing acting. And I realize now, maybe that's why when our kids go off to school, it's kind of like that. It's like, wait a minute, they're gone. Now who am I? We have these periods of transition in our lives that show us we are not these roles. It doesn't matter if you've had a successful career and you decide to retire, or your child leaves, or something happens and you have to move. We are not the sum of our roles. We are something deeper. But what is that?
What has God created us to be? A
child of God. I mean, it has to be that. It has to be the relationship with God. Because apart from that, there is nothing else. If you dig deep enough, that is the depth of it. We are children of God. And that has to be how we understand ourselves, how we define ourselves.
That has to be the foundation. Right. Yeah. Yeah, the foundation. Because I think what you're speaking to is honesty and then identity. But I also think that when you get that right, when you get the identity piece right, then circumstantial things don't really change you all that much. Right. So a change in job, I know a lot of people go through a really big crisis of who they are when they've given their whole life to a career and all of a sudden they're downsized or their company closes or
they retire.
And they wake up that morning after retirement like, wow, what do I do now?
What's my purpose?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And so I think, to me, it's really hard to separate yourself from all of those roles, but really necessary in order to ground yourself in that identity of who God says you are.
And with everything shaking right now because of viruses and all of the uncertainties in our world, we're going back to that. We're having to dig deeper and figure out what it is that's not shifting and changing. And it is that. What is our purpose? It is to live as children of God and to tell people about Jesus and to be a light in this world. And we can do that different ways in different places with different roles and wearing different hats. But the virus is showing us that deep down that is always going to be our identity and our purpose.
Right. Because what you like to do and the hobbies that you want to do, they will change too. With age, I have found that I can't do some of the things that I used to want to do and could do.
Yes.
Me
too.
And sometimes I look at those things and go, was that a different life? Because I can't believe I ever did that.
Different knees.
Right. Different knees for sure. And hips. But But I think a lot of times we tend to qualify that by saying, oh, well, I just don't have time anymore. I just don't have time to read. I just don't have time to, but I think it all starts for me when I used to be so afraid of spending time alone. And then God made me a single parent. Right. And it was all I had,
Yeah. There's
a measure of that first couple of years that I was a single parent that I really didn't have any, I was afraid of deep, meaningful relationships because I didn't want to get honest with who I was. And so I think that particular season I can look back on and think, okay, that was a time where I lost myself because I didn't want to be who I was. But then there have been times throughout my life where I get just in the busyness of life and I'm thinking the reason that I struggle with insecurity is because that identity piece is lacking and I haven't spent time really thinking, okay, this is who I am and this is what I need to be about. It's because I've been an unpaid Uber driver and I need to get somebody from point A to point B as quickly as possible and feed them on the way. That became my purpose and plan. And so for me, I think it's that kind of a double layered thing there because I do have to be honest, but I also have to be willing to admit the truth about where I'm at and kind of who I am. Because I think as we get older, we think we ought to have it all figured out. Right. I thought, I can remember thinking about people who I knew were 50, and I was like, man, that's old. That is so old.
Not old anymore.
I know, right? I think that's young. You got a lot of living yet left to do. But I thought I would know more. Yeah, me too. I thought I would know more.
Yeah.
And I thought I would be farther along.
Yeah, like you'd have figured it out. Yeah. Like the whole idea of figuring it out.
Yeah.
Because you watch the TV shows and it looks like they have it all figured out. When they get to that age.
Especially about yourself.
Yes.
Maybe I don't have parenting or, work or all those things figured out. But I've been with myself for 50 years. Right. I ought to know me pretty good by now. I ought to be able to know what I like and what I don't like and what makes me tick. But the older I get, the more I realize the less I know about myself because I've been doing all these other things for so long that I just didn't take time to either think about it or I avoided it.
You know what I'm feeling a really strong urge to do? Run out of this room right now and go find a journal where I can just start, maybe even with some prompts that ask me to reflect on who I am and think about different things and just write in a journal.
Okay, we can't.
Do you know of anything?
I'm writing. I'm doing a whole bunch of writing too. Just
yeah,
let it flow. I was just writing this down. The danger of finding your identity in a role is that when things aren't going well in that role, let's say you identify as a mom, which often I do, and then I have an argument with my kids, my whole world is crushed. Right.
So true.
Because that's my identity. You've now wounded not just my feelings, but you've taken away my identity.
Yep. And I take it one step further and I start identifying myself as a failure in that role. And I say, I'm a failure. Yeah. I'm a failure as a parent. Right. I'm a failure as an employee. And there again, boy, just let the wind blow. Wait a minute. It's like the weather in North Carolina. If you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes. We'll be in a different season, I promise you. Yeah. Same way with having your identity in a role. Wait 5 minutes and it'll be different because you'll have a success and you'll think, oh, I'm great at this. I'm the greatest. Hey, call James Dobson, somebody. I could give him some advice today. and then all of a sudden, bom, bom, bom. 5 minutes later, you're like, oh, I'm terrible at this. I stink at this. I don't even know why God chose me to be a mom. I don't know why I'm her mom. All those things start playing into. So I think you're exactly spot on there that if you put your identity in a role, man, you're gonna find yourself in conflict a lot of the time. Wish I'd have known that about 20 years ago, Tricia. You're about 20 years late on that. But
that
thanks.
Sounds like me.
One of the things I'm thinking about too is, as you said, that putting ourselves in our role, putting our identity in our role. It's not just painful when you fail at it, but it's also painful when they don't want you in it anymore. Rejected.
Yes.
When you're rejected from your job,
honey,
when you're rejected from a relationship.
Yeah.
And that just hurts.
You know what I called it for a long time after I went through my divorce and became a single parent? I called it less than land.
Oh, yeah.
Because everywhere I went, I felt less than. It didn't matter if people knew me or not, I felt less than because of that. And for a long time, the enemy used shame to just keep me, pressed down. and depressed about that. And not to say, I mean, there was all sorts of grief and stuff that I went through with that, but I adopted the role of rejected. Mm-hmm. And I not only adopted that role, but I said to the world, I'm never going to get close to anybody again because I've been rejected once.
And that becomes your identity.
Hey, there we go.
And that is not your identity. Our identity is in Christ.
Right.
And we have to replace those negative identities with the positive identity of a child of God.
Right.
Taking that situation
Okay.
and digging deeper, you can see that your identity was not a failure or a rejected person, because you have been able to speak to other people in that situation and encourage them and shine the light of Christ into what happened to you and encourage other people in it. So you see that rejected is not your role. Your role is a child of Christ, and you used what happened to you in a way to bring glory to him and good to others. And that's how you can see that your role was not that.
Yeah. Yeah, and but I think that is so hard to see in ourselves sometimes.
Especially in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I wouldn't have necessarily said that if you're like, what is your identity? I wouldn't have said, oh, I'm rejected. Hello, my name is rejected.
Hello, my name is.
But child of the washroom king. But I think it's hard to see in ourselves when we're going through it. But also, it's taken me time, and people saying that to me. Oh, now you've been able to encourage people who go through the same thing, because all I could see in the beginning was the failure,
pain.
And pain, and so, gosh, I don't know how to get back to. I guess it all strikes for me at the heart of being honest and to stop running from whatever you're running from. Girl, turn around, run to the one who can. And here's the thing that kills me about myself is that, I get in a bad place. I want to quit going to church. We run from the very thing that can help us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, why do we do that?
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Anyway, maybe that's just me. But
I saw a meme about that. Can I just share it?
Yeah, come on.
So it's a guy. Okay, I want to paint the picture for you. It's this guy, and he's got his hand over his eyes like he's trying to shield the sun.
Yeah.
But he's wearing a cap with the bill backwards, and tucked into his shirt are sunglasses. And the thing was, the wording said, when the Holy Spirit's giving you everything you need, but you're still trying to do it your way.
Right.
Right?
Perfect.
He only needs to do pick up the
Perfect.
sunglasses, turn that hat around.
Yeah.
He's sitting there doing that.
Yeah.
So it's so funny because we do have everything we need. We do have an identity that is worth more than anything else, and it's as a child of God. It's being found in Christ. But we keep looking for it other places, like that guy.
Stop running. Stop looking. You got everything you need. Run to the one who can really change things for you. Be honest. That's where we start. We start by being honest, and then we start by letting God tell us who we are instead of letting the roles that we play tell us who we are. Yeah. Got thoughts about it? Got questions about it? Well, we're more than willing to hear them and respond to them. You can always email us, girltalk@thelightfm.org. We love when we get an email from you.
Yep.
Share this podcast with somebody that you know that might need a little bit of encouragement along the way. And we want to say thank you to our friends at Fox Toyota of East Tennessee for their partnership in ministry. We love you folks. Couldn't do this without your help. And we love you. Thank you so much for listening today. And we'll see you next time we gather around these microphones for the Girl Talk Podcast.